We are here. It is day one of the Quantum Ascension Shift Code series. I am so excited for this. You are in the right place. If you are a leader, a way shower, a visionary, you're here to uplift humanity through your sacred gift and medicine, and you are ready to create, lead, give, and receive from divine overflow. So, if that's you, then you're in the right place. Just a little housekeeping really before we get started. These videos are going to stay up for 72 hours completely complimentary on YouTube. And then after that, they go into the paid membership on YouTube where they will live as a growing library until the last episode drops sometime in September. When the last episode drops, the videos come down, everything vanishes, including the Telegram channel, which is completely complimentary. It is an add-on to this series, so this can be a very collective co-creation. And so you get a lot of like extra community and activations and calibrations and just behind the scenes kind of downloads that come through in between the episodes and also piggybacking off of the episode. So if you want to get in on that, the link for that is wherever you're listening to this, which right now should just be YouTube. I'm not going to put this on the podcast. 333 as I say this. Okay, threes are very significant. So I'm going to just dive in with what was coming through before I hit record and really the last 3 to 4 hours because I'll be honest, there was a level of resistance because I didn't know what wanted to come through and I was trying to figure it out. And I have bullet points and I had some things that were, yeah, divinely guided and dropped in, but really there was a level of resistance as soon as I tried to like control this process in some way or make sense of it. So I'm here completely just surrendered to the process and trusting that whatever comes out is what is meant to come out. I did gain a lot of clarity around who this is for, especially the last few hours. And this is for the star seeds, the light leaders, the way showers that are here to lead a new paradigm. And you are ready to lead from divine overflow. That is the ultimate intention of this container, but there are a few other intentions that came up that I'm going to share with you really quick. One is the intention of the videos disappearing and vanishing after 72 hours is so they can you can build momentum. This is an opportunity to really anchor into your sacred devotion, which is one of the words that was dropping in right before I hit record and earlier this morning. So I am going to talk to that. I'm going to speak to that. And so you can build momentum and use this as a way to anchor into your sacred devotion because they're not available forever. Of course, you can binge them inside the membership if you would like, and I highly recommend that if you find these valuable because you'll be able to get more and more from them over the course of the 3 months as the library builds. Or if you're watching an episode, yeah, I guess that if you're watching this, I guess that won't make sense because this is the first episode. So no one will ever really be watching this and want to get in on any pre-existing videos. So, because this will already be in the membership, it won't be accessible to you. So I guess we don't need to say that in this video. All right, long story short, the intention of this is to build momentum. It's an opportunity for you to anchor into sacred devotion. And we are going to dive right in. So there's a couple of key things that were popping up right before we hit record, and we're going to just flow with it. The first thing I'm going to share a little bit on my background and my story. The story of Sarah awakening to her divinity and stepping onto the path of sacred service. And I know many of you are tuning in at various quote unquote phases, but there's something here that wants to come through that's important, and it ties in with the threes that I just mentioned. So, for all of you that are new to me, I've been truly devoted to what I refer to as a sacred mission since consciously since 2012. Prior to that, I went through the awakening, opening up to all of my divine gifts that were already online before that, but 2008, 2009, 2010, opening up more and more. In 2012, I had what I would refer to as a Kundalini awakening and a spiritual opening that was just like spirit just poured gasoline on the fire, and I was a wide open channel. I remember laying on my bed in the fetal position as I felt the energy rise up my spine and kind of like cracking my back along the way. Didn't hurt. It felt kind of like a chiropractic adjustment up my spine. And I remember laying there in the fetal position, wondering like, oh my God, this is so weird, but I wasn't afraid. And this energy just moved up my spine until it got to the base of my skull, and then it just turned into this golden, gooey ooze, like comforting energy that just felt completely comforting. Most people obviously would be scared if their back was just randomly cracking and things like that, but there was no sense of fear or anything like that. I knew it's like intuitively the wisdom within me, the sacred wisdom within me that I incarnated with as a volunteer soul in this lifetime, already knew what was happening. This was divinely timed, it was divinely guided. Just as your awakening is, it's divinely timed. You can't force your spiritual awakening. It just happens when the truth of who you are is ready to wake up to itself through this human vessel. So, long story short, after that, on, um, I went really down the channeling rabbit hole, and I opened up to channeling very profoundly in 2014. So, spiritual Kundalini opening happening around 2012, and then 2013 spiritual gifts were amplified, but I've been having moments of what would be referred to as satori moments ever since I was a child. I remember putting my hands in the dishwasher as a kid, being told to do the dishes, and I couldn't play outside. And there's this one moment where I put my hands in the dishwasher and started to wash the dishes, and it was just like there was no time. There was not, most kids didn't want to do the dishes instead of playing outside, but there was just like all of that. I remember looking out the window as I started to do the dishes, and everything just, um, there was no time. It was just peace. The water felt perfect on my hands. Everything was what I was doing was perfect. There was nothing that needed to change. None of that consciously was going on in that moment. This is all reflection afterwards, because none of that was present in the moment. And that is key. That is going to circle back several times throughout this, because the separate sense of self was not there. And so that's been happening since I was a teenager or even younger than that. And long story short, fast forward to 2014, I really opened up to channeling in a big, profound way, where spirit started to move my mouth to syllables. And then I stumbled on a video on Abraham Hicks' story on how spirit moved her mouth to syllables when she started to channel Abraham. And I didn't know what to do with that. My ego attached to it and thought it was really cool, and thought that I was special because I was able to do that. Not to a huge degree, but the ego latches on and tries to come in the back door and like use it for something, and this and that. And I remember sitting in my bedroom, which was like a sacred altar. It was a spare bedroom. I had just asked my fiance to move out, and I had called off the engagement because I knew I was settling for comfort or some false sense of safety or security. And I was alone in my home with my fur babies in a pretty much a vacant house, because all of the furniture pretty much was moved out at this point. And there was nobody home. I was sitting in the spare bedroom where I was sitting at my altar which was where I sat in meditation and in silence and in solitude. And this was back in 2014. And I just remember this this knowing that there was something big. There was something big, and I've always known that there was a big mission on my heart, but I couldn't put words to it or understand what that meant. And this may resonate with you as well if you are a light leader starseed and you're here on a sacred mission and nobody else can talk to you about this and make sense of it for you. This is something that you know to be true. And the more you deny it, because maybe it doesn't make sense to other people, the more it will, the more you kind of you'll eventually circle back to it, because this is what your soul came here to do during this time of ascension, this mass consciousness awakening. You are on the edge. You are a new paradigm leader, and you came here to lead through the power of your example as the living transmission. And this is a sacred mission that has been rooted in your DNA, your bones, your ancient wisdom. Like, you carry these codes within you to help activate others and to help uh, raise consciousness on the planet. And you may resonate with that a lot. And if you don't resonate with that, then you probably wouldn't be listening to this. So, as always, take what resonates and leave the rest, right? But so where was I? I remember sitting in this room that was completely vacant and or empty of furniture and anything. And I was just, I don't know why I keep sharing that piece. It must be important somehow that it was a good metaphor for the phase of the journey that I was in, because there was a purging that was taking place, even like all the furniture being out of the house and the calling off the engagement and no longer being in a relationship and things like that. Like, it was a reflection of what was happening inwardly. I was connected to the spaciousness within me, and there was spaciousness in my environment, right? Anyways, life is one big metaphor. It's one big mirror. Um, so I was sitting in sacred solitude and just opening to receive. And I remember, um, the moment my hands locked into a mudra, which I didn't even believe in before, but I was going through yoga therapy training, and I was taking these classes. It was a 2 or 3 year program for advanced yoga therapy, and we were learning mudras and stuff like that. And the egoic part of me thought that was kind of like BS, like this doesn't work, like that's not a thing. Anyways, this isn't like a huge part of the story, but I sat in meditation, and the moment my fingers clicked into mudra, I felt an energetic shock shoot up my spine. And I just knew that it was time to devote. It was time to devote to something that I could not see, that I could not understand, that I could not make sense of, that I knew was going to change everything, that was completely unknown to me. And this is all going to come back towards the end of the series, most likely as well. It's a beautiful full circle moment. But there was just a knowing inside that it was time to devote to something beyond what I knew. And I didn't know what that was. And it scared me a little, actually, maybe a lot. I'm trying to place myself back there, back in that experience. It was unknown. I knew everything would change. I knew my life would be restructured. There was an intuitive knowing that there was going to be a fallout or a crumbling, that everything that was not in alignment was going to fall away. And I share this because this is part of the relinquishing period that you go through before you move into the sacred in-between phase of this quantum shift that you're in right now. And so I have broken this down to phases, although this is not a linear process. And I will reference some of those phases as I feel called as we move through this together. But intuitively, I knew. and that everything would change and everything would shift and that my life would be completely restructured in some way, shape, or form, but that it was a calling. It was something that I was here for, something I had signed up for. And this wasn't because I read it in a book. This wasn't because I heard it on a YouTube channel. I was completely just tapped into my own energy. I didn't even really read spiritual texts aside from maybe referencing the Yoga Sutras in our yoga therapy training. Aside from that, I was, the most reading I've done at this point was Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life, which was in 2013. And during the onset of this, I read Conversations with God. So there was sitting with this knowing that things were going to change and things were going to be restructured and it was all going to work out in the end. I knew that it was all going to work out in the end. I knew that then these are all intuitive knowings. This is not conceptual when I say that I knew. It was just an inner knowing, an inner standing that things would work out, but shit was going to get rocked to the core. And as I put my hands in mudra and I had this huge energetic shock go up my spine, I devoted in that moment to whatever had to happen, turning over my human life, my human existence to the service of whatever was calling me to this. And at this point, I didn't have words to put to that. And there's still to this day no words to put to this. All I can, all I can say is that there was a moment of surrender to the unknown, that my life was not going to play out necessarily the way I wanted it to, or the way my ego thought it was, or that I was going to be able to control any of the circumstances to try to maneuver it in a certain way. There was just a knowing that everything was going to be restructured and that in the end it would all work out. And there was going to, and that I would be guided and protected. But I was being asked to trust. I was being asked to surrender. I was being asked, oh, I'm getting full body chills right now. I was being asked, and I might get emotional. I was being asked to surrender to something beyond me, something that was beyond what I knew, and really enter into the unknown and trust that it was all going to work out. Now I say me because at that phase of the journey, I was still identified, even though there were higher messages coming through me as a channel. Uh, I was a spiritual seeker outside, seeking things outside of myself at this point, right? So this phase of the awakening phase, this awakening phase where you're opening up, oftentimes you move into the identity of the spiritual seeker, which is still looking for things outside of yourself to make you whole, complete, and worthy. And there's nothing wrong with that. I was divinely guided to so many beautiful practices and so many integrations and activations and experiences and Reiki attunements and all the things. And they all played a beautiful part in this, whatever you want to call it, in this relinquishing phase, right? We're going to call it the relinquishing phase, which is and and this is prior to moving into the sacred in between, which is where a lot of you may be now, and a lot of you may still be in the awakening phase, actually, where you're still a spiritual seeker at the time that you're listening to this, and you're still seeking things outside of yourself in order to make you whole and complete. And this then during the relinquishing phase, you will be stripped of all of your attachments and you will be stripped of all the ways you have been seeking external validation, safety, or approval outside of yourself. So we will move into all the phases. There's plenty of time for that, but I wanted to get back to this moment of devotion. In the moment that I devoted and I basically accepted the call, accepted the call because this was not my choice. And you have to be a little crazy to just agree to surrender everything and you know what I mean? Like this isn't something that the ego would have chosen. This was a calling. And the moment I accepted the call, in that moment, there were three loud, um, I don't know if I could call them bells. They weren't like gongs, they weren't like bells. Maybe they were like something in between that, but they were loud and they were emanating in the room that I was sitting in from right to my left to from the corner of the room. I want to say it was just emanating and filling the entire room with 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, like a solid three full frequencies that sounded something along the lines of a bell or something. Um, three solid ones with a nice sizable pause in between each one. It was three solid bells that emanated in the room, filling the room. And again, most people, if you're in a house by yourself and you're thinking, you're home alone, and then all of a sudden there's three loud bells in the room, most people would turn around and be like, what the heck is going on here? Who's here? But there wasn't any of that. There was just peace, and there was just like this, just like wave of peace. And that's how I can explain it as there's this wave of peace. There was an intuitive knowing that there was something sacred happening that I did not understand from a conceptual level or from the egoic mind. And I wasn't even in my mind. Otherwise, my mind would have been reacting to that kind of stuff and making a story about it. There was no story about it. There was just presence and a knowing. The reason I'm sharing this is because this is the sacred devotion. When I mention throughout this series, sacred devotion, when I ask you today what you're devoted to, this is not a series to feed your ego desires. Let's just get this straight. The intention for this container, the people that I call in, I call in people that are here to make an impact. I call in women who are here to lead. I call in women that are strong and powerful. Maybe you've been hiding from it. Maybe you've been dimming it. Maybe you've been running from it or silencing it. Most likely all of the above, because this ancient wisdom within you and the sacred medicine within you, the sacred feminine that's rising within you has been persecuted and rejected and suppressed and erased. And this is what is rising now. So, but let's get this straight that this is, and I know if you're resonating with this, this is not your intention, but this is not to feed your egoic desires. This is sacred service to the whole, to the collective, to something beyond you, to something beyond the small self that you are answering. You are answering this call. This is not your ego mind trying to drum up some kind of something that you think is going to save you or make you feel whole or worthy or abundant or good enough or any of that. All of that dies on this journey with the sense of separation, with the separate sense of self. This path is for those that have answered the call, that came here with a big mission on their heart to make a big impact, and now is the time. If you look and see, you will see a world that is very much, in some respects, depending on what frequency people are operating in, there is a world that is also going through tumultuous death and rebirth process right now. And there is a lot of crumbling. Very similar to the crumbling you may have already experienced in your life as things started to fall away that you latched onto for some form of safety, validation, or you attached to it for some sense of safety or security or something like that. It is this process that you went through that has built the infrastructure for the collective to be able to rise as high as it is now. And it is all divinely guided. And right now you'll see a world that is also going through a death and rebirth and cleansing and purging and purification process, as are you, as is the collective that is rising. And This is what you came here to lead. You came here to be a living, walking, talking, breathing example of what is rising, which is unity, which is love, which is compassion, which is empathy, which is collaboration. You look at the world that has been rooted in distorted masculine energy, focused on greed, manipulation, force, power, control. Power is an important word that's coming up later. I'm going to make a little note of that so I don't forget. And that was coming through before I hit record. Greed, manipulation, power, control, fear, and you see that you see how that has unfolded and the byproduct of that, the byproduct of disconnection, the byproduct of being so you can't separate from the truth from who you are, but you can't separate, sorry, from the truth of what you are, but there can be veils and illusions that you buy into that mask that. And you are seeing a world that is being unmasked individually and collectively and on a global scale. And this is why you incarnated now, here, at this time. So it's time. And it's time for you to lead from overflow. It's not time for you to lead from self-sacrifice anymore. And I know that this is the true essence of this container, which wants to come through this channel. Many of you have been leading with lack or scarcity or fear around receiving, and always leading from an empty cup, or leading from self-sacrifice, or leading from over giving and under receiving. And the world needs you sovereign. The world needs you anchored in your abundance and your prosperity and your ability to lead from a full cup, because ultimately it is your ability to lead from a full cup that is going to be the highest contribution to humanity. Your ascension is the highest contribution to humanity. And when you are fully living in your authentic truth, your embodied divinity, you're not buying into stories of lack or fear or scarcity. You're not, those are disempowering stories. You become empowered from within. You don't live from fear anymore. And this is what is being unwound on this at this time, which is obviously why this was being called to be created, because it's time to stop playing small. It's time to stop believing in limitation. It's time to stop believing in the fear matrix grid that keeps you hooked into just creating more of the same. It's time to stop believing in the lack and the scarcity and the unworthiness. Um, and this is gonna segue into the next phase of this conversation that wants to come through. Let me take a sip here. What's coming through next is it is your duty. It is your mission to be fully embodied in your divinity and what I refer to as sacred wealth. So we talk about sacred devotion, and that comes with sacred wealth, and that can look different for different people, but we're going to talk about this because it's ultimately the word power that's coming up. So many, if you've been guided here and you're leading from an empty cup or over giving and under receiving, or martyr energy where you need to be everything to all people and you're not being able to hold energetic sovereign space for your own well-being and your own sovereignty, your own financial well-being, like all the things. What's coming up right now is that is dying. That is an old template. That is an old template that is dying. You are moving into 5D frequency, new earth frequency, fully embodied in your divinity. And that scarcity loop that's been playing, or that overgiving loop, or that self-sacrifice loop, or that money is bad or evil loop, and all the things that you've been saying about receiving and being open to receive, like all of that is dying with the old timeline. So the thing that I wanted to share about this is it is actually your highest contribution to be wealthy in this lifetime, to be abundant, to be so well resourced that you can shine your light and share your gift and your message and make the biggest impact that you're here to make. And that can look different for everybody. So again, this is not about egoic desires trying to create something so you can check off boxes and then feel good about yourself or feel successful or feel abundant. The sacred wealth that you generate on your journey will be a reflection of the impact that you're here to make. And also, it's a reflection of your inner worth. So there is a loop that some people will fall into, and I've been guilty of this, is that the more you perform or the more that you do, then you will be worthy of receiving. And so the spiritual ego comes in the back door and says, okay, now my wealth is tied to performing and doing and and all of that. No, you are abundance at your core. You are already worthy at your core. Sacred wealth that comes in as a byproduct of you being devoted to service is just a natural byproduct. It's the divine compensation that comes in as a byproduct of you fully embodied in your frequency, your divine feminine essence. Because when you're embodied in your frequency, your divine feminine essence, and you really move when you're moved, and you really take the sacred action when you're guided, and you really show up when you're being called to show up, and you really create what you're really being called to create from a place of divine overflow, from a place of devotion, from a place of sacredness, from a place of giving, from a place of receiving, right? When you really do that, you will receive. And this is about clearing any weird beliefs you have around that. So your worth is not tied to anything that you do or create. You are innately worthy. The law of divine compensation is going to mirror back and compensate as you devote to what it is you came here to create, as you show up for yourself, and the service that you are here to share, whatever that is, or the magic, or the program, or the art, or whatever your sacred medicine is. And so when you're fully anchored in your embodiment, in your divine embodiment, you won't play small. You won't hide. You will allow yourself to be visible in your truth and share your message. You won't compromise your values. You won't have energy leaks all over the place, giving away your power and giving away your sovereignty. And a natural byproduct of that is being completely magnetic effortlessly for what is meant for you. And so as you do that, as you, and I know I say do, but as you be that, and the doing happens on its own when you get out of the way. Perfect example is this series that you're watching right now. The doing just happened after I got out of the, like, I received it and the doing just happened. I didn't think about it. If I thought about it, or in the moments when I did think about it, tried to figure it out, it was met with resistance because it wasn't pure then. It wasn't what it was meant to be. I'm just meant to show up and share. I'm not meant to overthink it, right? I'm not meant to try to figure it out. I'm just meant to show up in my genius and divine genius and magic and share my gift with the world, which happens to be through sharing my voice with the world, and which I do in many different ways. So you won't block the prosperity. You won't block the resources that want to come in and support you on your mission when you're fully anchored in your truth and embodied in your what your soul and heart came to create, because you won't be thinking anymore. You will be being and you will be doing. the doing will happen, but it'll be sacred doing action, right? I call this sacred masculine action. There will be action, and there can be a lot of action or a little action. There was a lot of action that took place after this dropped in order to get the systems and the structures and the Telegram channel and everything, figured out. So it would flow, the welcome emails, the welcome messages, like there was structure, there was action, there was doing, and it felt fun as hell. I could not stop, right? Because it was just what was being birthed through me. It was just what was birthing through me. And all I had to do was trust it and not question it. So the other intention for the series is I want to show you through being the example how easy it can be when you just get out of the way and stop overthinking things and stop buying into the old belief systems and paradigms that tell you you have to figure this out, because that's not how this is going to happen. You're not going to quantum shift into your highest timeline and divine overflow through the mind. You're only going to anchor into this through the heart space, through the present moment, through being here now, sharing what wants to come through you, creating what wants to birth through you as the divine channel and vessel that you are. You were born, I'm going to repeat this because this may trigger you, but you were born for sacred wealth. This is actually part of your mission. This is part of your journey if you're resonating with this. You are here to create ripples in the collective and be open to receive divine compensation for everything that you create. This is part of your mission. It is spiritual for you to be wealthy. It is spiritual for you to be abundant. It is spiritual for you to be well resourced and anchored in your sovereignty. It is spiritual for you to be able to operate from your flow and have everything provided for. It is spiritual for you to operate from this, but it is also very foreign to you, most likely, and also not what you were trained to believe. You were trained to believe that you had to work really hard and that you had to perform and that you had to give a lot in order to receive. And this is the identity that's being broken down right now if you found this series. It's not through your performance. It's not through your efforting. It's not through your self-sacrifice. It's not through compromising your values. That is not how you're going to be able to give and receive, create and lead from divine overflow. It's simply you being so anchored and devoted in your truth that divine compensation has no other option but to flow into your experience. And I'm getting full body chills right now because a Rise Sister Rise client just shared with me on a private voice clip exactly what happened in her experience that completely, I'll share that maybe on another recording after I talk with her. We're going to be celebrating on Thursday inside the Rise Sister Rise call, because it's not through effort that this is going to unfold for you. It's through ease. It's through flow. It's from you getting clear on what you're available for, declaring what you're available for from a place of sovereignty, from a place of fully being anchored in your worth, from a place of you being fully anchored in your sacred devotion of what you're available for and what you came here to do. I know who I'm speaking with right now, and I'm speaking to those that have a sacred mission on their heart. It is your job to be abundantly resourced. It is your job to be wealthy. And wealthy can look different for other people, but a lot of it, the hang up that you have is around money. And here's the thing where power was coming up that I wanted to share that dropped in right before I hit record. The word power is often associated with money. Many of you are not even afraid of receiving money. You are afraid of how much power you will hold when you are that well resourced. You're not hiding from the money, you're hiding from your own power. Because in order to be able to receive on that level, you have to be fully anchored, and there's no more excuses, fully anchored in your divinity, fully anchored in your sovereignty, fully holding the energetic space that you came here to hold for you, for the collective, for others, and to be so fully sovereign in your power and in your divinity. And for many of you, that power scares you. Money has always been associated with power. When you look out into the world, you see power from the distorted masculine template that is dying, by the way, which is why you're here right now, but it has taken power and has taken money, which are closely associated, and distorted them and used them for greed, for manipulation, for hurting others, for control, for power. And so there's a correlation there that needs to be seen through so you can fully open to receive the abundance and the prosperity that is just a natural byproduct of you being in sacred service and making an impact. It's part of your soul mission. You didn't come here to live as a beggar. You didn't come here to live in scarcity and lack. That's not what you're here to be an example of. And again, you're not attaching to the external world of form and the material world and making that mean something about you. And that is not what I'm referring to. And if you're here with me right now, you already know that that's not the case. You're not seeking some arbitrary number outside of yourself just so you can stroke your ego. You're not here to, you're here to create a movement. You're here to create legacy level impact. You're here to impact millions, whether that's through a podcast or a YouTube channel or speaking somewhere or wherever. Like that can happen so fast when you get into alignment. Opportunities fly in out of the blue when you get into the alignment beyond what you thought was possible. Most of you listening to this will be dreaming or having visions for yourself that are too small and limited. Need to expand beyond what you currently think is possible for yourself. And that limited vision, that limited what you're feeling you can hold is limited because you're not even necessarily afraid of the money coming in or the wealth coming in. Although there's a huge disconnect between spirituality and money, spirituality and wealth. You are more affected by the association that it has with power and how distorted that has been. But part of why, when I dropped into this on the true reason that this was coming through, part of this is because it's time for the heart-centered leaders to fully be abundant and and be coming from that level of sourced prosperity, because it's not going to change you. You are too pure. You have a pure heart. It only gives you more resources to expand your mission and your impact and your vision, your sacred vision, your God-given vision, the calling in your heart that you can't escape, that was gifted to you. It's why you came here. It's what you incarnated with. And you can do a lot more with a lot more resources. That's just the way it is. You can do a lot more with a lot more resources, but you have to be able to hold those resources in your energetic field, in your field. You have to be able to hold that unapologetically and know that it's not even about you. Remove all of those little worries that the ego has about you not being spiritual enough if you allow money or wealth or millions of dollars into your experience. Then all of a sudden you're going to be seen as some kind of non-spiritual person. And the only people that would be judging you are the spiritual egos running around that like to judge. And that's just the language of the ego. I will say this again, it is your mission, it is your part of what you came here to do, to be well resourced and embody sacred wealth of that which you do whatever you're feeling called to do it, but you already know that you have a pure heart. And those resources need to be funneled into people with pure hearts. How do you think a new earth is born? It's through the living transmission of you being fully embodied in your divinity, operating from unity consciousness and taking sacred action on what is being called through you to create the not only the energy of the collective, right, which is rising, but also the structure that holds it. They go hand in hand. The form and the formless are one. So we're shifting away from distorted masculine energy that use power and money very closely from a place of manipulation, greed, and all of that, and a way to control people, and a very fear-based consciousness. when you open up to receive the wealth that is part of your dharma and part of your prophecy here, you will be able to do amazing things with it that you never thought possible. So there was a couple of things that I wanted to share. I definitely wanted to touch on the connection with power to money because this is key. Because so many of you are just afraid of how powerful you are, and money in your hands just makes you that much more powerful. It doesn't change your heart. It doesn't change your intentions. It only amplifies what you're already here to do in the world. And you can do a hell of a lot of good when you have more resources. When you are fully able to really embody your power and know that that is not wrong, that your power is sacred. This is your sacred feminine rising. You are powerful as fuck. There's nothing passive about the feminine. There's nothing passive about fully embodying your divine feminine essence. You are powerful. And when you can begin to own how powerful you are, you will begin to open to receive more and more. That's a vibrational match for that. But you have to be willing to own this power that you hold, not from an egoic place, not from a pedestal place. You're not special. You're just powerful. You know that you're different. You came here with a big mission on your heart, and different doesn't mean better, but it does mean that you have a sacred mission on your heart that you've known you've had for a long time. And now you're being called, you're being summoned forward to fully shine in your power. When I host, I used to host a live, I don't know why I'm sharing this right now, but I had a live master class that I hosted every week and every 2 weeks when I was going through like my darkest nights of the soul. And they were amazing. And they were called Awaken Your Feminine Power. And most of the women that were coming to that container were awakening to their feminine power through a wound, through abandonment, through sometimes curiosity, right? Also through distorted masculine energy. They are being called to awaken their power. And so there's a integration and a purification process that happens in order to fully own and awaken your power. And we're going to be diving into that. That seems to be something that's coming through, and I'm sure it's going to resurface in this series. Just know that wherever you're at right now is perfect. Everything has been serving you up until this point. You are here for a reason listening to this, and if it's resonating, it's because it's meant for you. You're meant to fully own your power. When I started getting hit with this synchronicity a lot about owning my power, I remember I was driving to Trader Joe's and the sign on it was "Go on a power trip." And I saw like all of these other synchronicities, and we often associate power with control or um, manipulation or something like that. It can have a negative connotation. And while the feminine is deeply empowered from within, coming into inner union with your sacred masculine means you're also powerful without. As within, so without. So this is a part of the reclamation that needs to happen for so many, is owning how powerful you are. And as long as power and money stay connected in your brain through conditioning, and they both have negative connotations, you will reject and repel what is trying to make its way into your life. And as you fully anchor in and surrender and start to declare how powerful you are through this embodiment process, you will begin to experience the 3D world reflecting back to you, a byproduct of you fully owning your sovereignty. Your sovereignty is powerful as fuck. There is nothing passive about the divine feminine rising within you. So the days of playing small are over, the days of limiting your visibility or hiding your truth or silencing your voice, all of that is over. Declare it now. You are here to lead a legacy, to create a ripple effect in the global pond of awakening. And everything you drop, everything you drip out, everything you touch is just another ripple in the pond of awakening. This is your living legacy, your living transmission. And part of that is being able to not only give, but open to receive from divine overflow. Not from scarcity, not from lack, not from overgiving and under receiving, not from selling yourself short, and not from compromising your values in any way. Not coming from martyr energy where you need to save everybody else and you can't help yourself. That template is over. It is dying template. You may see other people still caught in that template that are not moving into 5D frequency and creating heaven on earth in the new earth paradigm. And that's their story. If you're here resonating with this, you're here to anchor in the higher frequency and build a new earth. The new earth bus is boarding. And by watching this and resonating with this, you're already on it. You're already on it. You're on the bus. And the next stop, like I said in a previous episode, which you may or may not be aware of if you're watching this later as a program, because I'm going to be packaging up this as a program. But the New Earth bus is boarding and Divine Overflow is the next stop. So I just wanted to share something. When you start to think of some of your favorite spiritual teachers that have really made an impact in your life, I was kind of reflecting on this as I was getting ready. It popped into my mind. So I knew it was something because it was right before I was about to hit record. And I was like, how much prosperity so many other people that have been playing very sacred mirror roles for you throughout your life, how they are open to receive from a place of divine overflow, divine compensation. And I'll just name a few of them right now so you can kind of like wrap your head around what I'm sharing here around the concept of sacred wealth and that this is actually part of your mission to deny the abundance that you are because of a fear of being too powerful or maybe mishandling all the money stories that you have or all the fear you have around your own power and your own truth or your that level of responsibility that comes with holding more impact, holding more visibility, holding more clients, holding more power, all of those things. Whatever your disconnect is, right? I'm sure that at some point you have been inspired on your journey through other sacred mirrors. Maybe one might, maybe let's just name some, Eckhart Tolle. And I did a little just research right before this just to let this land with you. Eckhart Tolle is currently estimated to be worth 70 million. The Dalai Lama is currently estimated to be worth 150 million. Michael Beckworth is estimated to be 4 million. Neil Donald Walsh is estimated to be 10 million. That's his net worth. Abraham Hicks is estimated to be worth 12 million. Louise Hay, she was the one that really kickstarted my opening with the mirror exercises where I couldn't say I love you in the mirror without crying because of her book, You Can Heal Your Life, which was a huge synchronicity that came in threes. Threes are very important. I'm going to wrap on another story on why threes are so important, besides the bells that visited me that day when I made that sacred devotion. Marissa Peer, you may know from maybe Mind Valley or something like that. She is estimated to be worth 5 million. I just did a quick search on these, so don't quote me. This is not um to be it is what it is. I just researched these loosely. These are estimates. I don't really know, nor do I care how much they're really worth, but I'm just sharing this to prove a point that you are not more spiritual. Ooh, Wayne Dyer. I really wish I would have Wayne Dyer. I really would have wished I would have looked up Wayne Dyer, but I'm sure it's going to fall right in alignment with what my point is. My point is that you are not more spiritual by not opening to receive what is divinely meant for you. You are not more spiritual to deny the divine compensation that is trying to make its way into your experience. You are not more honorable. You are not more faithful. You are not more spiritual. You're just less resourced. That's it. You're just less resourced. And that's part of what this is about is regardless of what you consider sacred wealth on your own, how you interpret that, I want you to be thinking about what this may be, how this may be triggered you, and where you may be buying into the fact that by receiving on such a large level, because overflow means more than enough, right? By receiving on that level, like what is coming up for you? Where do you feel resistance? Where do you meet your edge of what is comfortable, where you can receive so much, but then anything beyond that you don't feel good about because you feel like it's going to be perceived the wrong way or something like that. So just if there's any integration work to go along with this, sit with this. Sit with where you are rejecting or denying or compromising your own prosperity in the name of being humble or in the name of being more spiritual, because you're not more spiritual by deflecting the abundance that you are and that is trying to make its way into your experience to support the mission that you're here to live, right? This is why I said this is part of your mission, is to be well resourced and rooted in sacred wealth. You came here to impact the lives of so many, and you came here to live a legacy, and that can look different for everybody. The word legacy might scare you, but this is who I tend to attract. I tend to attract women that know they're here to create, they know they're here to lead, and they know that they're not here to compromise and play small. And you have a big mission on your heart, and you have a pure heart, and you've been tethered to an old timeline that told you X, Y, and Z was wrong or not spiritual or makes you greedy or manipulative or whatever, all the negative associations and connotations that go along with power and money. But that is from a distorted timeline that is collapsing. That is from distorted masculine energy. We are now marrying sacred masculine energy with the feminine, sacred feminine that is rising. And when you come into union with both your feminine and masculine, that is a powerful place to be. And you have to be willing to own that power unapologetically. There's no beggar's cup. You are fucking powerful. And this is what I kind of want to end on. Check in with yourself on where you feel resistance, where you feel your edges around receiving. Check in with your vision on like what is possible, like where are you so limiting with your thoughts or what is possible for you? Because this is just another way of playing small. It's just another way of resisting the abundance that you are. So yeah, I have a few more stories to share, but we're just getting started. So I think I'm going to save it for another episode. If you got value through this, and this resonated with you or even triggered you, I would love to hear about it in the comments. If you're listening to this while it's on YouTube, what was I going to share? If you haven't jumped into the Telegram channel yet, you're going to want to do that. It's completely complimentary. It's a way to make this experience very co-creating, collaborative. Yeah, it's a high frequency Telegram space where I will be jumping in and offering a little extended energy drops, downloads, and calibrations that piggyback off of these episodes, and periodically as I feel called in between the episodes. So at the end of this series, all of the videos, this video will move into the membership area on YouTube in 72 hours. And then at the end of the series in September, the membership videos and the Telegram channel vanish and everything gets packaged and repurposed in a divinely aligned way, which has yet to be determined. So I think that's it for now. The other housekeeping notes is if this is resonating with you and you know you want to dive deeper, you're always welcome to check out Rise Sister Rise or the membership or the temple. Those are some really fun ways you can jump in, and each one has a different level of commitment with your time, with your energy, with your financial investment, and also they have a different level of access to me. So, and they also have a different kind of like purpose behind each one. So if you're looking to gain community with other women that are awakening to their feminine power and really embodying their divine sovereignty, which is the root of everything that I just shared and everything that I will share, and is at the root of the mission for Divine Femme, is to be fully anchored in your embodied divinity and divine sovereignty, then jump into Embody the Empress. That's my membership. It is, you can go month to month, cancel anytime, and join for the price of a pedicure. So that's super accessible. The Forbidden Feminine Sacred Heart Temple. This I have been announcing for a while that I'm getting ready to drop the next edition called Sacral Magnetism in there. And this is all about fully embodying your dark feminine energy. It's very Lilith coded, and it's all about really anchoring into your dark feminine magnetism. And right now you can get access for the price of one live event. So you already have the Forbidden Feminine Black Cat edition, which I recorded on Friday the 13th. That's waiting for you in there. When you get access to the temple, you also get a ticket to the live event on March 13th, because the Forbidden Feminine Black Cat edition is going to be it's going to be a live event in March 2026. So you get a ticket to that. And the sooner you jump in, the less you pay, because every time I drop a new edition, which I've been announcing here for a while, so don't be surprised when it goes up. But when I drop the next edition, Sacral Magnetism, the investment goes up, but it's a one-time buy-in, and then you get lifetime access to everything that I drop in there. So check out the link for that. And if you really want to dive deep and go head first into this quantum shifting and you want the live interaction with me on a weekly basis, then you can check out my 13 week, which is just a little over 3 months of weekly live, no holds bar, like quantum shifting, identity shifting, and really stepping into full on sacred feminine leadership. That is Rise Sister Rise container. So I think that's it for now. That's all of the housekeeping. I hope this finds you well. And until next time, namaste.